Hey guys, it's Philline and welcome to Philline, a safe space where we can talk about what it's like being in our 20s in the 20s. For this episode, we're going to be talking about money, 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 money. So you guys remember that SpongeBob episode of Mr. Krabs singing money like that? Well, anyways, this is what the episode's going to be about. Tips on small victories of saving and how I've been slowly saving while still paying for my other bills. So get ready because we're going to be talking about all the greens. Hey guys, and happy Philline Friday. Even though today's not Friday, I know this episode comes out on Fridays, and it just feels so good to say it, even though it's not Friday, and it makes me look forward to Fridays. Anyways, it's been a very long, stressful week. It's been raining all week, and I hate when that happens because when it rains, I get serious migraines, and I can't even stand up without getting a headache, and it's the worst thing ever. To make things worse, it's actually daylight savings around the corner, so fall back this Sunday. It's going to be so fun because it's the day after Halloween, and I'm pretty sure we're all going to be up late, so I'm not ready for that. I also hate the rain because Leo hates the rain. We've walked him twice already today where he would take about 40 to 45 minutes to even pee or poop. And it's the most stressful thing ever because all the rain is all over you. And of course, the minute we take him out, it starts downpouring hard. But it's fine. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. You guys know that gif of that animal that's kind of sitting in a burning house? And the caption is, "It's fine. Everything's fine." That is literally my mood this week. And I'm just so excited for it to be over. So a few things going on this week. One is my cutting diet and fitness plan. I'm about the third week in, and unfortunately, I wasn't so good the first week. I had a lot of salt and vinegar chips. As you guys know, I'm a sucker for those chips. But I'm looking forward to a better week this week, and I've been doing really good with eating and keeping track of how much exactly I'm eating, so I'm looking forward to more better results. Another thing is, I don't remember if it was this previous episode or the episode before, I was talking about the show Haunting of Hill House on Netflix. I finished it recently and the story is so good. It's a lot better than The Haunting of Bly Manor. I feel like concept-wise, Bly Manor was much better, but the focus that you have towards Hill House is so much better, so I would definitely recommend that for you guys. And another thing, for you gamers listening, there's a game called Phasmophobia. My brother told me about it, and I recently started watching streams on it. Here's the thing with me and scary games. I don't play them, I watch them. But for you brave souls who like to play them, you should definitely download it and check it out. It's basically this game where you go to different locations and you kind of determine what kind of ghost it is. And you use all these different instruments and tools like an EMF reader, a thermometer to check the temperature in the air, and also video cameras, of course, to see if you can take a picture of them. But it's pretty scary, especially if you have virtual reality or headphones. And I think you guys should check it out if you're interested. But yeah, I mean, I don't play them because, God forbid, I will literally shit my pants if I play that kind of game and I hear any type of ghost near me. That is like my number one fear. Maybe next to death. I am so scared of ghosts, so you won't catch me playing that, but I'll still watch it and enjoy the streamers playing it, so definitely check it out. And alright, today we're going to be talking about my favorite topic. I am obsessed with, not money, but ways to use money smartly. That's probably the dumbest way I can describe it, but I am obsessed with the idea of understanding the value of money and really using it to its best potential. So money is obviously something that we need and use in everyday life, whether it's something we purchase, we get paid during our jobs, everything. It's a part of our life. And as much as everyone says money can't buy happiness, it does a little bit. I mean, you do need it to kind of maintain your basic needs, shelter, food, clothing. But on top of that, there are so many ways that I think our generation is not taking advantage of in terms of making money while sitting there and doing nothing, basically. And it's even harder because, we're not worried about having to buy a new pair of shoes from the Nike store or the newest phone. It's not the biggest of our concerns. I mean, it's still there, but on top of that now, we're starting to buy houses. We're starting to have loans, especially for school. And whether it's not a house, even just an apartment, on top of that, furniture for the apartment, car payments, food bills, and even the little things like your gym subscription or your subscription to Apple Music or Spotify, or even something like renter's insurance, something so small. Even those little costs, they do add up if you do lay it out and see it in front of you. And honestly, even thinking about it, the beginning of our 20s is basically blowing hundreds and hundreds of dollars on alcohol. I mean, once I turned 21, I spent a few hundred in the weekend sometimes just on alcohol alone. And that's just so crazy to me. Just thinking about how much money I wasted the first 2 years after turning 21. It's very disappointing, but it's not too late for me to start. And I've definitely discovered a lot of different ways where I can start saving money. And quarantine has definitely helped because obviously there's nothing open for me to even be tempted to spend money, especially on food and alcohol. But now that things are opening up a little bit and just my general anxiety about my routine changing, my new job, moving to a new apartment, just a lot of things changing in my life, I found that when I'm really anxious, I've said this before in a previous episode, I tend to go shopping when I'm stressed. I mean, retail therapy is deadass a real thing, and I've definitely seen myself blow hundreds of dollars just because I'm stressed or having a bad day. And weirdly, one solution that can help you with this is actually to get a game. And I know that's weird, but if you get a game that requires purchasing, for example, Animal Crossing, you can buy things with bells within the game. Doesn't require real money, don't get me wrong, but just the feeling that you're actually purchasing something that's not really from your wallet, like it's virtual money, obviously. It actually has helped me quite a lot to stop my habits of buying things. Also, another thing I've been working on is just like how I mentioned in episode 2 of relationships, you kind of give yourself a day or two to think about it before you start an argument or talk about something that's bothering you. I wait about a day or two before I actually buy what's in my shopping cart. And then honestly, after a few days, I look at it and I'm like, wow, I don't need that. Why am I buying another face lotion when I have already 3 sitting in my bathroom cabinet that honestly I haven't even opened yet? And it's things like that that open my eyes to the fact that I really am buying things only because I'm stressed. So what have I learned about saving money? Well, first things first. Before you even decide to save, what's important is that you have an emergency fund. And you need this before absolutely anything because, God forbid, something happens. It's always good to be prepared in advance and have some type of money to at least pay for something important that may happen to you. So I saved about 3 months of my average expenses, and it's obviously changed because I've moved to an apartment and now I have more things to pay for. So put that into consideration first. If you're at home, you don't need to save that much in terms of 3 months of emergency expenses. But obviously, when you live on your own, you have to kind of recalculate, and it'll definitely be a lot more compared to someone who's staying at home. And once you have about 3 months of an emergency fund, keep that shit in your savings. Don't touch it. Literally put it in an account where you're not going to withdraw it at all. It's basically not there. And it's definitely something hard to do. But the next step that I've learned is your focus should then be on paying off your loans. And yes, it's super hard. I mean, I'm still maybe over 13,000 still in loans, but you have to prioritize that because the sooner that you pay that off, the sooner you can start saving and not really spending your money paying off any type of large bills. I mean, every time you see something like, a 10-year repayment plan, it's so comfortable for the person because it seems like a whole lot of time. But truth be told, you accrue a lot of interest over 10 years. And somebody who's paying off their loans in 5 years versus 10 is actually saving so much more money. And I can definitely vouch. There is still a way to pay off your loans and save. The trick to it is that you should lay out all your expenses and your paychecks and kind of weigh out how much you can save per paycheck. And another way I save smartly is cutting down on expenses that I use every day. So an example of that is coffee. So I recently bought a Ninja coffee machine, which, by the way, you guys, you should definitely buy. It is such a good investment. But let's actually do some math. So I get a medium iced coffee from Dunkin', caramel swirl with almond milk, best shit ever. But anyways, from Dunkin', it is $2.49. So let's say you're a coffee addict like me and you have to have coffee every day for the entire year. The total cost of that, just on coffee alone for the full year, is $908.65 plus tax. I don't know. I was too lazy to calculate the tax, but it's about $910, right? That's a lot. You could be putting those $910 straight into your E-Trade account and invest it in some really good shit and get money back just by sitting there doing nothing. Okay, so you go and buy the Ninja coffee machine. And then if you think about it, so one huge can of coffee, the coffee that I drink is chock full of nuts. It is only $10. And let's say about once a month, I need to buy a new can. So that's $120 for the year. So your first year, you're going to spend $120 on the entire cans of coffee that you buy the whole year, plus the Ninja coffee machine, which is going to be about $100. That's $250 for the first year. And let's say you take really good care of your coffee machine for each year after that. It's only $120 each year that you're spending on buying the coffee. So for your first year, you save $650, and the next years after, you save $780. And really think about that. That is a lot of money for people our age. I mean, the average salary has to be in the 50s or 60s. I don't even know. 50K or 60K in Jersey, I think. But that is a good chunk of money that can go straight into your investing account. So I'm definitely the type who is a voucher for investments. If you're going to put aside money, I would recommend putting it into a investing account, because if you think about it, your money sits in your savings account forever, doesn't change. Fine. You're comfortable with that. It's not going to change. No one's going to take it away. But if you're smart about it and you really learn and read about it, your money could grow while you just sit there and you do everything else that's occupying your life. And for anybody who wants to start investing, I would definitely recommend the apps Robinhood or even just E-Trade. I have an E-Trade account. I never really got into Robinhood, but that's because when I was 18 and heard about it, I wasn't really that interested. But I've heard a lot of good reviews about Robinhood, and that's a good start to really get your stocks and get your portfolio set up. Now, investing, definitely you have to read on it. You have to learn about it. So if you don't have the time and you really don't think you can at least try to figure out the stock situation, saving is the best way to go. But I would always tell people to invest because you really expose yourself and teach yourself the ways of the market, and you can really self-learn these type of skills and save how you want to, basically. And the one thing I can say about investing that I've learned for the past 3 or 4 years, listen, I am still so new in investing. I don't know shit yet. And even people who have been investing for 12 to 20 years or more still are learning new things every day about the stock market. But what I can say is, if you have a lot of money, don't invest it in just one company. You want to spread it out and invest in multiple things, because God forbid that big company that you're invested in tanks like bad and you lose thousands of dollars. That is going to hurt so much. But if you allocate it into different companies, obviously not every company is going to tank at the same time or go up at the same time. So it gives you more of a chance to rely on other companies rather than just the big one that you're invested in. But I definitely will have more episodes on investing because that's something I'm really interested in. Another way to just save money is super simple. When you go out to eat, why you gotta buy all those drinks that cost double the amount to even make, or triple, honestly? How about you pregame and then go? I mean, wine is literally like $7, $8, $9, or $10, and just to have a half of a glass of wine, sometimes it costs like $13. Isn't that freaking crazy? That will always shock me because I've seen people blow hundreds of dollars too just going out and spending like $10 to $12 on just one shot of Jack. the whole bottle costs $24. And with drinks also goes with food. You could eat something before you go out and you won't be as hungry. And when you go to eat, you won't spend all that extra money on the appetizers and the dessert that you're going to eat on top of your entree, which also helps you to balance out your healthy eating and keep your calories to a maintaining level where you're not eating so much and potentially gaining weight. And everyone knows this, I'm sure, but food at the restaurants are so much unhealthier. If you want to have shrimp scampi or a steak, go to ShopRite and buy the ingredients and learn it yourself, because one, steaks aren't even that hard to make, and scampi is also super fun to make. And you'll find that you can kind of mix around the seasonings and find out your good level of salt and pepper and kind of play around with it so that it's matching to the diet that you want. Even at Fridays. So I'm pretty sure they took this out of the menu, and I am so legitimately upset that they took it out. But there's this mozzarella salad, and it's literally mozzarella bits, basil, red onion, balsamic vinegar, and olive oil. I don't know if anyone remembers that, but oh my god, it was so good. As soon as I had my first bite of that appetizer, I immediately looked up how to make it, and it was the easiest thing in the world, and I still make it to this day. And another trick is the good old-fashioned credit card. So I don't know about you guys, but I am definitely really bad at using my credit card. So what I've done is I've only used it for emergency purposes. And mind you, I still kind of break that habit. I have a really horrible habit of shopping and using my credit card, but I try. Another way to use your credit card smartly is to pay it off at the end of every week. And sometimes for some people, based on their salary, it's hard to keep up with that. So even something as putting a limit on your credit card or just using it for emergencies, it's probably the better way to go. And based on all the investing podcasts and books that I read, the most common saying in millionaire mindsets is to spend less than you take in. And when I say millionaires, it's not the ones that are flaunting their huge purchases. It's the ones that look like normal, regular people who aren't millionaires, but are actually low-key banking hella money. And if you guys are interested in reading about low-key millionaires and smart investing, there's a book called The Millionaire Next Door. It's by Thomas J. Stanley. It's a really good book, and this is where a lot of what I'm talking about is coming from. But in that book, they are talking about people who look completely normal. I mean, middle-class people. And they are saving so much money and making millions of dollars. And it's crazy because they are also doing smart shopping. So why would you spend hundreds or even thousands on a new tuxedo or a dress? According to that book, millionaires on average don't spend too much on clothing. And the psychology of it is that people are more inclined to spend more on clothing and items because they want to make the appearance that they're rich when in fact they're not. So what's important with clothing and just general items is to choose quality and value over quantity. I mean, pick the clothes and things that you know you're going to be used for longer periods of time. And me personally, it was horrible. I mean, in middle school, the biggest brands were Uggs, Abercrombie, Hollister, and Coach, and spending all these unnecessary amounts of money on things just to make you look rich. And even in Filipino culture, at least in my area, there were common things like Lacoste and Polo Ralph Lauren and Michael Kors and just so many different brands that are just so overpriced. And even thinking about the fact that I spent $60 on one shirt just irks me. And I'm so glad that I kind of stopped that behavior because there's so much more I could do with my money. And speaking of clothes, thrifting is the way to go. People sell their clothes, and I mean, I wouldn't recommend shoes or socks or even hats, honestly, because I'm kind of weird with that. But they're cheaper. You can bargain for them. And on top of that, you're helping other people make extra income. Since we're on the topic of extra income, there's also a lot of ways you can make money just on top of also saving more money. Going back to thrifting, you can sell clothes that you don't use, just like you'll buy clothes that are more at a affordable price and not always at the new price sold at stores. This is awesome because it's both ways helping each other. So you are selling to help increase your money flow, and you're buying from them to help their money flow. And also, a great way to keep up your hobbies is to use it as a side gig. I mean, if you like to draw, you should make logos for businesses and small companies and podcast users. Hint, hint, wink, wink. If you like to talk, make a podcast. Connect with sponsors while you make the podcast, and you can make ads and make maybe not so much money at first, but if you're dedicated to it, you can definitely see a good cash flow in there. And another thing is do it yourself. My dad, he's crazy DIY. I mean, he's built everything himself at our house. He's built a deck, a pool, changed our driveway pavements all the time, which I think isn't so bad. I don't want to even say that it is easy, but he also redid the whole basement himself. He changed all of our carpet on the first floor to hardwood floor himself. And he's done just like little projects on his own, which, don't get me wrong, it's hard. I've seen him get super tired from all these projects and complain about his back. But for smaller projects that you don't need to hire someone to do, you yourself can do it. You'll get 1, the exercise, 2, you'll learn something new, and 3, it's a great way to save your money. And now taking it kind of back a little on lessons that I wish I knew. For some of you listeners, it's not too late, but for people like me who already finished school, I mean, I am grateful because I did end up going to a school that wasn't crazy expensive. But I would definitely tell people to choose a school that's not so expensive. So when I was in high school looking for colleges, I really wanted to go to Columbia University, not just because it was an Ivy League and I was obsessed with thinking about the best schools for myself based on their name and reputation, but I was so close to getting in and I made it through the interview portion and I didn't get in. And I did get into NYU, so I was talking about it with my dad, and my dad basically said, listen, you're going to NYU is a horrible idea. I mean, if you think about it, you have to pay to take a train to go to school every day, assuming that I go to school 5 days a week. Or if you decided to live there, it's already $15,000 to $20,000 just for 1 year to live there, and that's so crazy. I cannot believe the level of debt that students are when they graduate college. It's sometimes in the 100,000s, and that is so sad because of our government's economy and just everything that they charge us for at school. It's so stupid. I personally think we should have a free education, but that's a whole nother topic that I'll probably get into at some point in this podcast. But yes, I would definitely recommend, if you're already done with your bachelor's and you're considering a master's, look for one that's more affordable because honestly, your first job is the only thing that matters based on your degree, and all they're going to see in your resume is that you graduated. That's it. I've gotten jobs by not even putting what school I graduated from because they don't care. What they care about is that you finished and you got your degree. And another thing I have learned, and it's too late for me, unfortunately, at least at the time, is to have a good down payment for major purchases like your car. I recently bought a new Honda Civic, and maybe it's not recently, it's like about 2 or 3 years. Oh my God, I don't even know. It's just all confusing to me. But when I bought it, I didn't have a down payment, and now my payments are at $450 a month, and that is brutal. It literally takes a lot from my paychecks, and I hate it so much, but thankfully I'm only maybe a year and a half left. But if I could go back in time, I would either get an earlier year of a car that's much cheaper or have more money as a down payment so that my monthly payments aren't that bad. But what I can say is, if you are looking to spend a good amount on a car, I would definitely look at the energy efficient cars like the Teslas and all these cars that run on battery, honestly, because gas is such a temporary thing, and unfortunately we will run out. And these gas cars will not be reliable when that happens. It's better off that you are thinking very far into the future. As stressful as that can seem sometimes, it's really important. But I'm not knocking on my Honda Civic. I paid $27 for about 420 miles on my car. And it's reliable, it's safe, And that's the type of car I would recommend. I mean, you don't need an Audi. You don't need a super fast sports car that's only going to cost a lot for you to maintain. It's something safe to get you from point A to point B. I feel like a lot of our generation is so focused on looks that there's a kind of indirect pressure of having to buy something expensive but not reliable, or fancy clothes or fancy items, fancy watches, diamond necklaces, diamond this, diamond that, but you don't need it, any of it. Wouldn't you rather spend some good money on a nice ass vacation and go visit somewhere? I mean, quarantine right now is rough. That's a whole different story, but even just going somewhere for a day like Pennsylvania, or just driving out to the nearest trail and going on a little walk. There's so much more that's worth your money, and all these short-term items are just not it, Chief. It ain't it. And something I'll probably talk about more in a later podcast, if you have a full-time job that has a 401k, y'all better be starting that shit. You better not be taking advantage of that. 401ks are so important, and those are your retirement savings, and the sooner you start, the better. If your job offers it, take it right away. No matter how much they match you, it's so important to save because it really determines how much you retire with. And retirement savings and travel, I am definitely going to be talking about that a lot in podcasts because it's such a big topic of interest for me. And I am definitely going over the usual time limit for this episode, so I'd love to expand on this more in other episodes. And the last thing that I'm going to talk about is budgeting. So I never really budgeted before I turned 23. But now that I'm a little bit older, I've realized that it's important to continuously expose yourself to your spending habits. And what I saw was not pretty. No, sir. It was not pretty at all. If you use apps like Mint, it connects to all your accounts, all of your financial accounts. So your loans, your bank accounts, and it'll let you know and see all your purchases each month. And it'll help you set budgets, and Mint will alert you when you're going over budget. So I think that's something super cool and a good way to really keep track of your purchases. So definitely stay tuned because there's something called financial independence that I'm super passionate about, and it's saving money, retiring early. It's something so super cool, and I think people in our age are not exposed to it enough, and I'm excited to really talk about it in future episodes. Okay, guys, and that's the end of this episode. Thanks so much for listening, and I hope you enjoyed our talk about saving. So our major takeaways is first to have fun and do it smartly. There's so many things that you don't need to be doing that require money that you could be saving instead. And the second takeaway is to use that money and invest. And the third thing is to invest in your 401k, which is your retirement savings. You definitely need to look ahead into the future for retirement. That's important for kids of our age. Doesn't matter how young we are. We're going to retire eventually, and it's important to have a solid plan of the amount of money that we're going to have when we retire. And finally, we are still so young. I mean, the 20s is a great time, but we have the time to learn new things. So why not, instead of sitting down and being on your phone for 3 hours, learn to cook your favorite meal or do all these projects on your own and learn to invest in stocks and really understand the stock market. There's so much that we can do, and the possibilities are endless, honestly. And that's it. If you have any questions, concerns, or topics you want to talk about, feel free to DM me at Philline Podcast. That's FEELINPHILLINE Podcast on Instagram. I'll make the Twitter eventually. I know, I'm running late on that. And I hope you've learned some type of thing about saving money and use it in your everyday life, because just like me, I want all of you guys to be happy when you retire. Thanks for listening, and I promise there'll be so much more about investing and saving. Till next time, bye!